Okay, so first with the axe, we're going to use it on a small twig. Also during this, I'm going to be seeing if it can work well when using gloves, because in cold weather, you're going to be able to need to have gloves on to stay warm and still use it. And so obviously, as you can see, I can still move it around freely and it still works in gloves. For the axe, we're going to be testing it with 3 different sizes of wood: a twig, a bit bigger twig, and a branch. During the testing of the axe, we're going to see if the axe head stays durable and has a good edge, so this edge right here. We're also going to see if the whole tool as a whole stay durable and see if any points weaken, like maybe some hinges or something down here. And we're also going to test these two down here. These are two multi-tools in the whole set of them, which this one is a smaller saw and this is a fish descaler. We'll be testing this at a later day, and this will also be testing on the same size branches I will be testing the axe on. Now we're going to begin chopping on the small twig. That took no time at all to get through, and the axe actually did really good there. The axe head is actually looking great and doesn't have any damage on it so far. So now we're going to be testing the axe on a bit bigger piece of wood, this being a bit bigger twig than the one before. So now we're going to go and chop it. It's working well, but it's still not making as good progress as the small twig before. Now we're going to continue to chop on it until it gets broken all the way through. As you can see, we're almost there. And just like that, that branch is broken. As you saw, the axe took a lot longer to get through that piece of wood, but it's still able to get through it. Now I can kind of feel the axe head is maybe getting a bit more dull, and there's a little dent in it, but it's still being able to cut through the wood pretty strong. Now this next piece of wood, I don't know how well the axe head is going to fare against it. You can see the dents I'm talking about when looking at the shiny part of the axe head. You can see it isn't fully round, and you can see parts where it's indented. Lastly, we're going to be trying to get through a bit bigger branch. Now for this, I'm going to be making sure I come at an angle, because you go right up top, it bounces back. Angle, you can get better, deeper cut into there. Also, if it gets through this, we're then going to be trying it against this bigger branch. I doubt it's going to be able to get through this at all, and it's probably going to take a while for it to get through this. So I probably won't be getting it. Anyway, let's start chopping. As you can see, it's making pretty good progress. Well, the problem is with a miniature axe, a small axe like this, you can't get much leverage, whereas with a big axe, you get a lot of leverage and pull it back, so when you swing down, it gets a lot of power going through it. From the video, you can see it's going to take a lot of time to get through this piece of wood. Eventually, I think it would, but by that time, it would make a lot more sense to get smaller twigs if you're trying to build a fire, which is what this axe is more useful for. Also, it's going to just get more and more damage the more you try to cut through a big piece of wood that's not really meant to go through. There's already a pretty decent indent you can see in the axe head. Now, I'm also going to test the saw that comes with the multi-tool that the axe is connected to. So now we're going to be testing the saw that comes with the multi-tool the axe is connected to. Now, one thing about this is I did have to take off my gloves to be able to get this tool out, which for cold weather is not what you want. Also, since it's cold metal, it'll take heat out of you. Now, we're going to be using the saw against this small piece of wood to see if we'll be able to get through it. Twigs, I tested, it was already able to get through them easy like butter. So now I think this will be a lot better test of it. So now let's start sawing. So, as you can see, it took a bit of effort, but I was eventually able to get through this. Now, when looking at the blades of the saw, it seems like they haven't actually worn down at all. Some may have actually bent back a tiny bit for the most part, though a lot of the tips of it look really good, and I think you can continue to do that for a while. I found this axe actually really useful for, that I was really surprised it's good at, is taking the bark off of trees. Because you can get underneath and just work underneath and pop the bark off. And this bark, right now it's wet because it's been snowing and raining, but in the summertime this bark would be really good for making fires. And if it's cold in the winter and it's dry outside, this will also be really good for making really warm fires. Overall, I found this tool really good and useful for whenever you're using it for its intended purposes, which is small twigs and a bit bigger or a bit smaller branches. Now I think it would be really good for a little like backpack or a little pack you have while camping. But I think if you're trying to use this to cut big pieces of wood, I don't think that'll work at all, obviously. But I would definitely gonna take this with me when I go camping.